Okie. Hey guys, welcome to this live AMA. Streaming this live to YouTube, just for those of you who didn't know that that's what we do here. And I will be starting the voice in just a moment over on the Discord channel. So, thank you if you've joined us from YouTube. If you want to talk and just join us live, then I will paste in the YouTube chat the link to Discord. So join me live here. And I won't be monitoring the YouTube chat, so if you want to interact, then you're going to need to interact over on the Discord AMA. So that is that. Now I'm going to spool up the Discord. Make sure I've got the right mic. And we're all good to go. Evening, everybody. How are we doing? Okay, good evening, everybody. How are we doing? Starting just a couple of minutes early here. Firstly, can people hear me okay? Fantastic. Where are you from, Anthony?
Los Angeles.
Great. So I'm here in Cambridge, UK. So we're also streaming this to the YouTube channel. I will see if I can find you a link. I think we'll probably just be front and center at the top of the YouTube channel, actually. So I'll just check the URL, and I'll pass it over to you guys. Yep, it's just at the top of the YouTube channel. So here it is in Hash Lounge. There's video on there as well, but I won't be interacting in the YouTube chat. So do join me there. If you've got any questions, then ask in Hash Lounge and use QSTN as a prefix so that we can see them pop up to help keep things sane. So I'll always take preference to voice questions because I get bored of the sound of my own voice. And if anybody wants to ask questions in text, that's fine too. So good to have you here. The few of you that are here, I'm sure other people will dive in when we hit the hour. And what can I answer? Mikey's here as well. If we need him, he's sitting just over the side of the room. So I'm sure he'll dive in and answer questions too from the Blender course. So who's going to be first with a voice or text question? Oh, deadly silence. Somebody's going to pipe up before long. No, what are you working on, Anthony? What's your what courses are you taking at the moment?
At the moment, I'm going through the RPG course, and I'm working on a small RTS prototype.
Cool. Are you enjoying the RPG?
I am. I'm having some mixed results with it. I just started over again, so I'm going through it a second time, but with more focus on some of the design elements.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I'm looking. So is there anything we can do to improve the course to help your experience, or is it just that you're struggling with your game concept more?
I'm not sure because I don't know how much of the issues I'm having may be addressed later.
Oh, okay. Cool. So you can tell us a little bit about the issues while we wait for people to start asking questions. Give me an example of something that we can help with.
It's just more and more the design part of the course is suggesting me to find my own solutions to certain things, and then when I go to actually write stuff down or generate ideas and stuff like that, and then I go and see your course, like the things you're doing are very different from the things that I do.
Okay. In terms of the game design, Rick's part of it more, or the technical side, or a bit of both. I mean, just give us a specific example.
In terms of like the way attacks are resolved, the way movement is handled, even the positioning of the camera, it's just very different. I'm starting to really just go through a couple courses at a time and regard it as inspiration, and then kind of go back to my project after that. And I found that's
Cool.
a little bit of a better format for me right now.
Great. Okay. Well, do stay interactive. Let us know what we need to do to help you, and we'll look forward to making you make the RPG that you're after. It'll be cool. Great. So
like 2 or 3 lectures instead of following it like the Unity tutorials, where I was going like one at a time and then kind of simultaneously kind of doing what you're doing.
Cool. Yeah, well, I've just finished section 2 of the RPG, so I'm looking forward to adding section 3 and starting with animations, lots of sound effects, lots of cool stuff coming in there. So look, that's going to be good. So it's a quiet AMA this evening. I'm not sure why. We've got 1,037 people online. It may be because Lucy announced it, perhaps. It's the first time she's announced it rather than me announcing it. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but it doesn't matter. More time for the people who are here. So, has anybody who's here in voice got any questions for us about anything? The upcoming Unity course, there's a new Unity 2017 course coming out, the RPG course, any of the other courses we've got, what's going on in Unreal or VR. Any questions at all?
This is actually the first I've heard of the new Unity course. Is that just kind of like an update to the old one, or is this like covering new things as well?
So both. It's going to be a replacement for the old one. It will have all new projects in it. It will be using Unity 2017. We've got the beta version today, so we will be using 2017 new projects, same sort of learning journey, covering the same sort of things, a much nicer process. So the existing Unity course is our first ever course. So the way we built it is a process that's a couple of years old now. So it'll be the kind of quality and process of the RPG and Unreal and all that stuff, with the way that we do quizzes and the way that we and the way that we do slides and the way that we do challenges. All that stuff is different. So yeah, kind of same journey, different projects, a fresh start.
So by replace it, is the one already on Udemy being taken down and then replaced with this one, or is it?
No. Anything that's on Udemy always stays there for life. That's one of the promises of Udemy, that you keep lifetime access. And then there'll just be an option to get another course if you want another set of projects at a similar level, but a fresh view on it. We also take a fresh view at Unity. We do things a different way now to how we did them 2 years ago. We've got some more techniques and tools even for beginners. So yeah, I think it's going to be people who are on the Unity course will get a lot of value from it. And of course, it's really designed just to be like this year's model, if you like. It's a model. It's a course, or if it was a car, it's like a model. It hasn't been refreshed for a few years, so it's time to just refresh it. It's as simple as that.
Fair enough.
That sounds great. There seems to be some elements that seem kind of missing from the Unity tutorials.
So I'd love to hear what they are. Can you fire off a few ideas? Because we're just in the process of designing the syllabus for the Unity course, and any input like that is super handy.
The biggest thing that I found missing was raycasting.
Yep, that'll be in there almost certainly, but it will be.
It seems like it's used in just about everything, and it wasn't really covered.
Yeah, absolutely. Raycasting we will make sure we put in there, and that is obviously in the RPG. So anything else? Anybody else who's on the Unity course want to suggest other things you want to see in it? I'm thinking of putting a platform game in there. What else would you like to see?
A platformer would definitely be good. I've been struggling with how to detect how to give detection to agents, to NPCs, to nearby units.
Mm-hmm.
Spear casting, area colliders. What's the best way to go there?
Mm-hmm. No worries. Okay, so that's something that obviously both of those options are valid options. We will.
You mentioned an RTS on GameDev.tv, and I think that would cover it.
Yeah, an RTS would be,
or a tower defense, or anything like that. Anything that have little units that interact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Cool. Yep, that's definitely possible.
In what is it, Garden?
Glitch Garden.
Glitch Garden. In Glitch Garden, they didn't really detect each other. They just kind of interacted in one direction, and you kind of knew where the enemies were coming from, and so forth.
Yeah, it was very kinematic.
So it doesn't really have that element.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, well, that'll be in there. Don't worry. That's an important facility. Yeah, that's cool. Anything else? Anybody else got any ideas for the 2017 course, things they'd like to see in it? Anybody else got any questions? In Hash Lounge is the place to paste them. I better check. Daniel says, I'd like to see something related to IK, inverse kinematics in it, like foot placement and stuff like that. Yeah, quite possibly. Might be a little advanced, getting right down into IK and things. We'll certainly do a lot more with importing humanoid animations and giving you the basics. But yeah, whether we'll get to IK, possibly. I've got to take a balance. I don't want to import too much stuff and give you too many assets that are kind of off the shelf, that are black boxes you don't know how to use. I want to take the same approach we did in the first time round and teach you from the basics. But cool, that request is noted, Daniel. I've written down IK. Maybe this is that'd be nice. Couldn't find enough good content related to that. No worries. Maybe this is a bad time of week to be doing AMAs, but they normally fill up really, really well. I'm still experimenting with the best time to do it. I guess if you're in LA or something, it's in the middle of the day for you, right?
Yeah, it's noontime here.
So Draxish is asking, I can't join the voice chat, but due to being at work, but are there any plans for a blueprint and prototyping course in the future? Draxix, when you say you can't join voice chat, can you hear me? Just tell me whether you can hear me. So perhaps you're quietly listening at work, but you're saying you can't talk. Yeah. So I'm not planning on typing responses right now, really, because that would be very boring. Because what you'll hear is like a monkey on a keyboard. So before I respond to you, I want to know if you can hear me. And then we've got lots of people typing. It's all hotting up now. That's cool. Anybody else who's here in voice while we wait for another text question? Anthony.
Yeah, I'm here as well, but
Hey.
I'm typing my message right now, Ben.
Okay, no, you do ask in voice. I prefer people to ask in voice. That's great.
Oh, okay. So I just checked your video, navigating your learning journey from TEDx.
The TEDx talk. Yep.
Yeah, and so you talked about the journey of learning, and I gotta say, I'm a little bit in the consciously knowing I'm, what was it again?
Consciously incompetent.
Yeah, exactly. I'm about like at 62% of the Udemy course right now, and 8% or 9% on the Blender one. And I gotta say, it's so difficult because there's still so much to learn, but I'm still struggling. So for me, it's a really awesome journey at the moment. And I was wondering how your journey has been. I mean, you're very knowledgeable, and so I was wondering how you started and stuff like that.
Sure. Okay. So one of the first things is that the more you learn, the bigger the surface. So if you blow a balloon up at a constant rate in terms of liters of air per minute or whatever unit time, then the surface area of it, and it's like inflation of the universe of it, the surface area of it gets bigger at an increasing rate during parts of that inflation. And that's what can happen with your learning, right? You don't know anything, so you don't know what you don't know, and you're in this blissful ignorance, and everything's cool. And then you learn a bit more, and the surface area of what you don't know gets bigger. Because the more you know, the more the things that you're kind of just outside of what you know. And that can be really frustrating. So just try and focus on, I mean, normally I tell people to look forward, not look backwards, but try and focus on all the stuff you have learned, and then try and pick yourself, it's always about playing to your strengths. So try and pick yourself projects to work on and games to ship that are within what you already know, because, you'd be surprised how much you can do with what you already know. And complete the full circle of getting the game to the store and trying to share it with people, or whatever your desire is. What's your outcome? What do you want? Do you want to sell games? Do you want to do them for fun? Do you want to inspire people? Do you want to educate people? What are you trying to do? What's the end game?
For me personally, or
yeah, for you.
Yeah, for me it's just I want people to play my games. I don't necessarily need to make any money on it. It'd be a nice side effect.
Yeah.
But for the, I have a vision of a game in my head, but I know my knowledge and my skills are not enough. So in the next couple of years, I just want to learn the skills necessary to make my dream game, and I hope a lot of people will be able to play it.
Cool. So I would, it may be worth doing, do you have just one game, or can you imagine doing a bunch of games that you're less attached to? The problem with attaching it all to the dream game is there's a lot of stakes there, and then you can get a bit tense that you have to know all this stuff before you even start, and you'll kind of never ship it because you'll never feel like you're good enough to make it as good as it could be. Potentially, right?
Yeah. I try to read a lot, and Anthony is a great help. Same with all the other moderators. It's really nice on Discord, but my idea is in the next few years or next few months to make just like tiny games or just like mobile games, which could improve my knowledge in specific areas, and that I can just have fun and actually complete stuff. Because that's the thing I heard a lot is you have to actually complete stuff to progress, because otherwise you're always stuck chasing a dream that never fulfills.
And another way of looking at that is a chain is only as strong as your weakest link, and you don't really know what the thing that's stopping you publishing a game is until you try, right? It could be that you can't market, it could be that you can't, whatever. You just don't know what area it is. So do it and try it, and really focus on what you love doing and your strengths. you don't have to be an expert at all. Even if you can't afford to buy assets in or work with somebody else, it, if you've got a particular strength, say you love music, then you could decide to make a music game and just scrape together the minimum skills, or buy in or inspire someone else to help you get the minimum you need to make that happen, but really focus on all the value being around the music. Or if you're all about animation, it could be about that. If you're all about physics or puzzles, whatever. So you can nearly always build something around your strengths without having to spend too much time skill building. You want to skill build consciously to fill gaps that really do stop you from making the most of the thing you're already talented at and good at and passionate about. Do you see what I mean? Don't spend too long trying to fill the gaps and of things that you don't naturally do well.
Then would you say you'd have to actively search for particular skill sets which are not in your comfort zone, so you just have to focus on that one to, improve on it?
Difficult. There's a guy called Jay Niblick in a book called What's Your Genius. I actually interviewed him. I can't find it on my site, and my site has had not a lot of care recently. But if you look on the bentristram.com blog site and look for Jay Niblick, like that, I think you spell it. I interviewed him, and he's got a great book called What's Your Genius? And he did a study on about a lot of people, about 100,000 people, and a bunch of them were very high performers by whatever, I guess, financial metrics, but there's plenty of other metrics to choose. And he was looking for patterns, and the only pattern he could really find is that these people who did extraordinarily well, thank you very much, Iceman, they had two traits in common. It wasn't that they were particularly good at any one thing, but they A, knew what they were good at, and then B, had the wisdom to build a role for themselves, or in the case of indie game development, make a game or make a series of games that play to their existing strengths and passions, rather than saying, I'm trying to do something, I'm not very good at it, let's get better. That's a very different, that's the school attitude. That's a very different attitude, saying, I'm not very good at something, why don't I change the role? Why don't I do something different? And only build skills consciously when they're really going to help you get to your goal. But center it all around what you're already passionate about, you already do uniquely, you already love. Because I spent decades doing everything you can imagine to try and find something that was that I could be really, really good at. And I did everything. I was a pilot, I was a stuntman, I was a fireman, I was a physicist, I was a financial derivatives trader. I just did these ridiculous number of things. And for me, I was addicted to learning. And the only way that I could continue to satiate that addiction and help other people would be to do something that's about learning and teaching continuously, which is what I do now, and I've been doing for years. For the longest, I've never done anything as long as I've been doing this, and I have no plans to change. It's fantastic. I feel really settled in it. But that's because I've built myself a role that is unique to my skills, which is a very, very specific glove that fits me. If you tried to get me to do anything out of that, it wouldn't fit me so well. So try and think what you can build that really fits who you are, what you're passionate about, what you're already good at, and only go about building extra skills to help you deliver the value you already have to people. Does that make sense?
And yeah, that does make sense. The only follow-up question, I don't want to take too much time because there's other questions, but because I think many people on the Discord, or people that are trying to get into the indie game development scene, are alone. Some might collab or whatever, but
Yep.
When you say you have to work on what you're good at, isn't that a fallacy for some indie game developers basically have to do everything, the graphics, the programming?
Yeah, so let me make sure that's really clear. So that's what I mean about the bits that you have to do, or you believe you have to do. So firstly, it's all based on belief, and it comes down to really comes down to a limitation in time or money. And they're kind of exchangeable. If you've got money, you can trade it for time. If you've got time, you can trade it for money. I'm going to presume that most of you started like I started, with no money, and probably if you haven't got much money, you tend to think you've got a lot of time. What happens is, if I was to draw a graph, which I probably can actually, no, it's no good doing that on a voice chat, but people who have a lot of money value time very highly and money very low. If you tell a multi-millionaire, do something for £1,000, they'll say, well, no, it's, I probably won't. But you tell somebody who has hardly got any money to do something for £1,000, they'll move the world for you. So people with not much money value time very low and money very high. People with a lot of money value money very low and time very high. So if you're starting out and you've got no money to spend on collaborating with somebody else, or even the experience or the leadership skills or the knowledge to even hire somebody else, then what you have got on your side is that you probably consider time to be available. Okay, you're working and stuff, but if you're passionate about it, we only work, say, 40, 60 hours a week. I say only, but there's 100 and whatever hours there are in a week. How many are there in a week? 24 times 7, 168 hours a week, right? So you take off 60 hours for a massive job. You've still got 108 hours. You've got to sleep in there, but you've got time, right? Do you agree you could find time if you needed to?
Yeah. I could definitely find time for all the things I'm passionate about, for sure.
So if you've got the time, then it's how you spend it. And I guess what I'm saying is that you've already got a bunch of skills. I don't know what they are for you. What are they for you? What can you already do that's good in game development? It could be storytelling, it could be animation, it could be sound effects, it could be music, whatever. Programming, what can you already do that you're good at?
I think I'm pretty good at figuring games out. What is fun, what isn't, and what could potentially make a successful game. I think, at least.
Okay, cool. So if you're good at game design and finding the fun, which is a hugely important part, then that's awesome. That's like going into business being good at sales, right? That's kind of a really important skill. If you're going to work on your own, you've still got to get a game out, which means you've got to technically be able to get something out. But could you ship something right now if you needed to, even if it was really simple? I mean, like super simple?
Yeah. I actually made a few variations on the block breaker, and doing a ball game, one from the Unity courses, and I just changed it to my own thing, and I gave it to about 20 people, and they how small and primitive it was. They enjoyed it, so
Cool.
that was a lot of fun.
Awesome. So I'm spending a lot of time with you because you're asking questions that I think are quite representative of other people. I'm also seeing there's a handful of other text questions, but I don't mind spending a bit more time with you because you're asking very common type of questions. So why haven't you shipped any of those to the actual store yet?
I did actually ship one. Well, not
awesome.
to the store, I think, but let me just on itch, right? That's itch.io.
Okay, that's cool.
So if anybody, it's just one, but if anybody wants to check that out, it's a rollerball game. So
that's awesome.
I tried to, yeah.
Awesome.
I tried to follow advice.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. So just keep going now, is all I've got to say. Do this about 40 more times, and you'll be making great games at the end of it. Figure out what you like, what you don't like, what you're good at, what you're not good at. Only improve your skills if they really help you get to your end result, but build it all around what you love.
All right. Thank you so much, Ben.
Yeah, no worries. Good luck. So, a few other questions. IH23. Hey, do you want to ask in voice, IH23, rather than me reading it out? You normally speak up. He doesn't always speak up. He sometimes speaks up. He's going to not speak up. No worries, not a problem. So how long would it take to make a medium-sized online mobile game? Mike's not good. That's fine. And what are your experiences trip you up making online games? So we haven't made a lot of online games yet. We're going to get into online development this year. So I'm not going to share experience on it. In terms of how long it would take, it really depends on the scope of your game, right? If you look at something like Clash of Clans, you could ask two questions. How long did they take to get the very first version out? I think it would have been measurable in months. How long is the total development time on it to date? It would be measurable in years, because what they've done is they've discovered that it's a successful formula and built it out, built more town hall levels, built more units, built more play modes. So to get going, it should only be months. To master it, well, you hope you're going to be developing it for years, right? Because you hope that it's successful and people ask you to make more and more and more of it. So there's a kind of top level answer to that. Daniel Ortiz is asking whether it's important to learn quaternions. Quaternions are only one of roughly four common rotation storage formats. You don't have to learn quaternions. They're very useful for interpolation between two different rotations. If you're trying to go from one rotation to another, they naturally interpolate between the two quite nicely. They've got a few useful properties. absolutely have to learn about them. Don't be too scared of them. You'll get scared only if you try and understand exactly what all of those four numbers are and do, because they're four-dimensional complex it's a four-dimensional thing in complex number space, and that is pretty hard to conceptualize. But there's plenty of good YouTube videos. We'll be covering it a lot more. We covered a bit in BattleTank in the Unreal course. Don't stress about quaternions. There are plenty of other representations as well. And look for some good videos on YouTube. I can't remember right now which one it is, but one of you guys may know the link to things like there's a good YouTube video on the rotation formats and gimbal lock and all that stuff. So Endless, doesn't it have to be a good game to be shipped? I would say it has to be shipped to be a good game. So it's not about how good the game is when you ship it as such, as how good it is compared to people's expectations, right? If you released on your own Mass Effect Andromeda, and you were an indie, and you just pop that out there and go, hey guys, look what I've made, the world would be, oh my God, yeah? But because it's a massive AAA game with a big team and a sequel, it didn't get the best reception. It's because if it's related to the expectations. So if you manage the expectations of the people who are going to play it well, and the old under promise and over deliver thing works, then people will excuse you for putting something out that is, it should be good but small in scope and make them hungry. Space Pirate Trainer on the HTC Vive, for example, it started a very, very simple, narrow experience, but very polished and good. So yeah, it has to be good, but it doesn't have to be good and big, right? Make it good, make it small, and let it grow and manage people's expectations. So I hope that helps with a Z. So I am seeing it's being a bit funny actually. 1 second, I'm going to go back to Hash Lounge because I can't see the bottom chat for some reason. Laser Break, I can't see your question and it won't let me scroll down. Oh, you haven't got a question. What you've got is two little up chevrons. And they look like, they're just like little like cat ears. Yeah, I get it. It's funny. It looked like my text was cut off. All right, no worries. Is his way of saying, I agree, I get it. Thanks. I'm just not hip enough. crusty old geezer not knowing the terminology. So, does anyone know how to get great free 2D animation software? We're actually going to be diving into a 2D course very soon. That's going to be Mikey's next task, is teaching you from the ground. Mikey's the Blender instructor, of course, sitting right there, busy making something very 3D at the moment. We'll be teaching 2D from scratch soon. So, yeah, that's the first thing. I don't have any good free 2D animation software to recommend right now. Do you mean for sprite animation, IH23? Do you mean you want to make sprite-based animations? If so, do you want bone-based animations or do you want frame-based animations? So just while we wait, the difference of frame-based. Okay, so that's like Flipboard-style frame-by-frame animations. I don't know. I could ask Mikey. He might be able to give us an answer in a minute. He's busy right now, but I'll see if he's listening. Mikey?
I don't have one to hand.
He doesn't. He's busy right in the middle of something. He doesn't have one to hand. But get some suggestions from the community, and then watch out for the upcoming 2D game art course where we will be talking about that stuff and teaching you that stuff quite well. Should say extraordinarily well, of course. So any other questions, concerns, conundrums, observations? It doesn't have to be about, you don't have to ask me about game development. We could have a bit of fun and ask about any topic whatsoever. See if I can answer. But in voice is better than text if somebody wants to ask in voice. Hey, Anthony. So feedback. Yeah, money, importance, time, exactly. And you can draw another line on that, Iceman, where, so that your line there is, yeah, basically that line's fine. With those axes, that line's fine. So Anthony's asking about leaving feedback. So you've got the voting site. Now, voting is going to be redirected soon into the forum, actually. So we do have a user voice site for voting at the moment, but we will be moving that into the forum coming up, but that domain will just point into the forum. If you've got general suggestions, we don't have a website, so I don't know what you mean about the GameDev.tv website. Maybe you mean the community site, and maybe you mean this, the GameDev.tv community site. Is that what you mean, IH23 and Anthony? You're talking about the community site? If so, that isn't really our website. At some point, we're going to make a homepage website, simple, clean. These are our courses. This is what we do. And the community site will be subjugated, if that's a word, to being what it is, which is a community site. So the
I
structure.
meant the organization of the forums had kind of a weird layout, and I didn't know where to go to talk to somebody about that or make suggestions or things like that.
Okay. Talk to Rob on the forum. He heads up the forum, and go in the lounge and do it. And there's a forum issues, I think, category in the lounge. Let me just take a little look. I'll link you directly to it now. So the best place for that would be, it's got to be something. I would just go in. Well, we've got a new course ideas, but that's brand new. I wouldn't use that yet. Platform. So if it's an issue where there's an actual issue with the site, then put it in the platform issues. So lounge platform issues. If you just got general stuff, put it in the root of lounge and mention at Rob, as in Rob Mead, and he will be very happy to discuss it with you. And any ideas are well received. And the navigation in general, I'm just trying to see your comment here. Click on the section.
Ben,
Mm-hmm.
I saw on the voting site, I voted as well, that there would be a Unity remake for the 2017. Is that still going true?
Yeah, we spoke about that at the beginning of this. I mean, the beta has dropped today. We're going to be planning it. We've talked about. No, don't worry. That's fine. Yes, it will. It's happening. We are planning the syllabus this week. It's going to cover everything the old one did, plus things like raycasting, perhaps a platformer, and it'll just be newer, better, bigger, stronger, faster. All that type of stuff. So.
And like different.
Yeah,
games?
different games. Oh yeah, I basically decided for myself a while ago that there's so many possible games. Why would we repeat them in any of our courses? What's the point? Why don't we just make new games every time? I mean, it's a bit of a failing of imagination if we can't make up new projects, isn't it? So yeah, always new projects.
Yeah, I just thought because that you had such a great art assets with the glitch that was given to the public domain. Is it hard to find quality stuff to make a game about?
Are you asking us whether it's hard for us or whether it would be hard for you?
I guess both, because we could readily use the glitch assets, but I imagine there might not be too many assets all working with the same theme and the same game readily available for everyone.
Well, look, the asset store's your friend, right? So we kind of underused assets in the first Unity course. The games were a bit ugly. Part of the reason for that is I really wanted to give you can just sit in your bedroom and do it yourself without spending any money type of feel to it. The reality is there's quite a lot of free assets and then very cheap assets. I mean, this time round, I'm going to respect that people don't have a lot of money to spend, but if you're going to spend 40, 50 hours watching a course, you should be able to consider spending $10 here and there on an asset pack, perhaps. From the asset store. And if you allow yourself that, then you're going to get access to a whole bunch of stuff. You can always put placeholder art in until your game gets traction and interest. So is it easy for us to put art into the new Unity course? Sure, we could spend $10,000 on it easily, and it's worth doing that. So we're going to invest a little bit of money in art, a little bit of internal time with Mikey, a little bit of external time. Also, potentially the community would be welcome to contribute to the assets for the new Unity course. I mean, that's going to have 100, 100,000 or 200,000 students on it next year. So and we would credit whoever does the art. So if anyone wants to help out making 2D or 3D assets for the Unity course, then watch out, because we'll send out an announcement to the community asking for that.
All right, thank you very much.
No worries. So Endless is considering going to university for game design, but you feel like Unity courses might do the job, except would require more time. How hard is it to learn on your own? It depends how motivated you are. If you're sufficiently motivated, you get the right environment around you, literally your working environment's good enough, you've got some people to work with, some people to talk to, you can socialize, not just online perhaps. Then you could do everything, absolutely. You can teach yourself everything using our courses, other people's courses, books, and just projects you make up yourself, and just projects back to back, and some local people to talk to. Try it, absolutely. The main difference you'd get by going to college, to be honest, wouldn't be the tutoring quality or anything necessarily. It'd just be that you've got a bunch of other people learning the same stuff and you can talk to them face to face. But if you make full use of all these things like Discord and Discourse and and all the communities we provide, and you meet some people face to face now and then, get on meetup.com, find your local game group, etc. I think you'd be fine. As long as you can socially kind of handle it, then maybe you could skip the university thing. It's up to you. Draxish, more of a comment, not a question. It took time. You took the time to watch the TEDx. I think I understand what kind of opportunity we have here. This is a community of people in different stages of the learning process who understands that we're all going through the process together. It isn't about Unity versus Unreal, C# versus C++, or even creating games in general. I think the main thing we can walk away with after doing one of these courses is a skill set of learning something new. Awesome, Draxish, I agree. While I know the focus topic is game creation, I feel that we're able to take the overall mentality we acquire through the journey and literally apply it to anything else. That's nice to hear. I think it's absolutely wonderful, and I hope you don't sound ridiculous. No, you don't at all. Ultimately, I want to teach you guys to teach yourselves. Yeah, I've kind of forced myself to learn how to learn, and I want to help get that across. And yeah, if you can do what Draxis is doing and see between the lines and listen, and this is why we take you down some blind alleys sometime and try and really talk you through how we get to the answers we get to, because it helps you think about the process of learning. So Draxis, that's a really good insight. Or I'm totally mispronouncing your name. If you're on voice, you can pipe up and tell me how to say it properly. I can't see that you are, but Drax-ish. I know also that you probably can't hear us unless you sneakily stuck an earpiece in or something at work, which is very naughty. But that is a good insight, and I know you'll be able to watch this back on YouTube, so please do. The problem with focusing on art is you literally start making your own game design around whatever art you can find instead of the other way round. Do you want to elaborate on that, Anthony, as you have a voice?
I was just commenting on some of the earlier comments about the difficulty in finding art.
Mm-hmm.
I became quickly discouraged when I was trying to find art and make this kind of database of art on my computer and try to make games around it. And then I realized I couldn't make the games I wanted to make because I couldn't find the art for it, or I couldn't find art that worked together really well and things like that. And I realized that when I started focusing more on building prototypes rather than building games specifically, I realized that, and this was from the advice of others, that focusing on the art was actually limiting the development of my ideas more than just using some of the basic shapes that come with Unity and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if your thing is about game design, you could make a game out of primitives, make that as a challenge for yourself. If you're saying you're good at game design and finding the fun, then use primitives. By which I mean cubes and cylinders and stuff. You can still make a game that's great fun. No one's going to judge you on the fact they're primitives if there's some coherence there and the game is fun to play. So I don't know if that's what you were trying to say, that you can get distracted by the illusion that you need to have great art. Is that what you were saying?
Not just distracted, but also very discouraged.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at Undertale, how successful that is with very simple art. I mean, it's simple art, still got a lot of love and care gone into that art, but it's, the number of degrees of freedom is constrained by how low pixel it is. So, cool. All right, I don't know. So her laser break says cough, Unreal cough. So is that saying you want more laser break? Elaborate more Unreal content. Hurry up with the Unreal content. I love Unreal. I hate Unreal. What's the cough Unreal cough about?
Hey Ben, yeah, I'm just saying I'd like to see some more Unreal content. It's pretty much all I know. I mean, we had a conversation about it earlier today, and I just I don't think I prefer Unreal over Unity, but it would just be nice to see some Unreal stuff, since that's what I started with game development.
No worries. How far through the current Unreal course are you? It's about 50-hour course at the moment. How far through have you got?
I'm in battle tanks. I've just put the models on the level of tank models and everything like that. Just finished building those. So thanks for that.
Awesome. So big course. Sections can be demotivatingly huge, and I appreciate that. We're trying to make our sections smaller. You're asking me for more content, but you have got about another 20 hours to go in the Unreal course as it is. So you get to the end of the content. We'll make more content by the time you get there. How's that for a deal?
Oh, that's perfect. I'm a bit of a joker, so I apologize.
No. I mean, it's cool. But the serious point below it is that if people don't get to the end of the content we've already made, we slow down, because we need to be pushing content to an audience of people who are immediately taking it. That's how we maintain quality. So
I really loved the first section of the Unreal course. I don't think I would have liked to begin with it, but from where I am right now, it was just perfect. I really loved it.
Yeah, it was pretty
unfortunately,
fun.
I had a hard time proceeding with it because of technical issues with Unreal.
yeah.
But that first section that just used C++ and Visual Basic and all that was great.
Oh, cool. Well, we may well do some more of that in the long run as well. Some engineless courses, some how do you learn how do you code, how do you make games, but let's not use an engine. You can do a ton with that. I mean, you start off with just Visual Studio, and then you start importing libraries for graphics and libraries for sound. And see, an engine, the difference between an engine and using libraries, for those of you who don't know, is the simple distinction is that in an engine, the engine calls your code. So the engine's in charge. It runs the timeline. It runs the the execution flow. It calls you when it's good and ready and says, "Okay, Mr. Whatever, Mr. Enemy, what do you want to do now in your update cycle?" If you write the code from scratch, then you get to control that main game loop, and then you call out to libraries and say, "Hey, Mr. Library, draw me something, or play a sound, or whatever, or read from the input." So you can turn it around that way, and there's some advantages to not being completely beholden to the engine. The engines provide so much value with asset management, with asset conditioning, with scene layout, with previewing of things, with physics systems. It goes on, rendering, but they come at a big cost, which is that your game becomes a bit like the engine. An Unreal game looks like an Unreal game until you do a load of work. A Unity game looks like a Unity game. It leaves a shadow in the game. People. That's why they chose to make a game like The Witness in a totally custom engine, and it comes out looking and feeling very fresh and different. So yeah, we can do more stuff out of engines. I'm glad you liked that. That's cool.
Will you be planning to use Unity or Unreal for your 2D course?
It's going to be a 2D art course rather than a 2D game course. So we'll be doing some 2D games in the new Unity course. This course that's coming up that I'm talking about that Michael's doing, and that wasn't Anton who asked, no, so I'll answer Anton's question at the same time, is about 2D art for games. How do you make 2D art from games starting at the beginning? And we've already decided that the general syllabus we'll start you with like an 8x8 block in probably black and white, and talk about when you're super resource constrained, how do you represent a teacup or a golf club or a tennis racket with that few pixels, or maybe 10 by 10 or 16 by 16, and then build it up, colors, number of pixels, and start building out and unfolding all the tools that you need in 2D art in general. So the release date for that course, initial version of that course, is not known at the moment, but it'll be summer in broad terms. And for the Blender course for the RPG, so is there a release date for that? And for the Blender courses for the RPG, I'm not sure what you mean by the Blender courses for the RPG, Anton. If you could just elaborate on that a little bit. I'm not sure what we've accidentally promised there. Jack asks, what's the possible change with the possible changes in Steam? I think they're quite certain the changes now, but I don't know. What does it leave the RPG with regards to releasing it to Steam? It means what we'll do is we will get into releasing it to Steam a bit later than we would have done had they not changed Greenlight. So we will just not even worry about getting it to Steam quite as early as we would have done in the project. We're still going to release it to Steam. What else we got? Oh, just general comments. That's cool. Anton's hopefully going to clarify what he meant about the Blender courses for the RPGs. Typing away right now. Time is ticking on. We're going to go and watch Star Wars Rogue One, I think it's called, with the family in a minute. So that'll be fun. We're going to be going all night. So
No spoilers, guys.
what's that?
Ben, yeah, no spoilers.
No spoilers.
Ben, I've researched fluid dynamics a little bit, which is way above my pay grade. So they're very tricky, but I always felt so much more could be done with fluid manipulation. Not a lot gets done in games with it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I always heard the Unity engine wouldn't be diverse or powerful enough. Is that something which is true, or?
There. I mean, it's not the engine that's. I doubt it. So you can write physics simulation code in C#. C# is, a memory managed language. It's not gonna give you quite the control to tweak the performance to the same levels as you might do in C#++. But who cares? I mean, let the performance profiler tell you if you've really got a problem. I don't think you would have a problem there. I would go for it. And if you really, really find a hot loop that you cannot, by a hot loop, I mean something where the performance profiler said this part of your code is causing problems, and you've really looked at the architecture and you've really looked at it, and the thing is either just not running fast enough, which is unlikely, because remember that C# compiles to an intermediate language, right, in the same way that Java does. And then that intermediate bytecode language is self-optimized by the virtual machine, so that after thousands of cycles of running, it automatically optimizes the code. So I would think it's unlikely that you won't get the performance out of C Sharp. It is possible. It's possible you also get problems like memory fragmentation and stuff like that, and you won't have enough control to deal with it. But I would hit those problems before you believe people with that. Focus on your algorithms. Focus on the clarity of the code. Focus on the top level. Read books like Clean Code by Uncle Bob Martin. Focus on that stuff, and then you can port your code elsewhere or build a C++ library that Unity can use if you needed to.
All right, yeah, that's far from right now, but yeah, it's something that has to be aspired to, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and with big, powerful GPUs these days, that's really going to help with fluid simulations. Depending on the scope of your game, you don't even have to do a real fluid simulation. You don't need to be solving the Navier-Stokes equation every millisecond. You can fake fluid simulation depending on the scope, especially in a 2D game. You can completely fake fluid simulation there. In 3D, it depends how convincing you want it to be. It depends what the constraints are. Remember that with physics in a game, it just needs to be fun and feasible. It doesn't even have to be feasible if that's part of the gameplay decision. But if it's a heavily physics-based game, people tend to get a bit of an arse on, to use a technical term, if it's not at least feasible. But you don't have to do full fluid dynamics.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Same way as if you're going to do general relativity. You might think you want to make a nice space game with some general relativity, and you want to curve space-time and yada yada. If you try and solve the general field equations, generally your machine's just going to come to a halt. You ain't going to get anything out of it. But if you take a constrained version of the field equations that are good enough for what you're trying to do, then you can get some amazing results and get lots of cool things going on. So.
I understood about 50% what you just said. So
yeah, so that was a long way. That was just that bit was designed to be a bit techie, and okay, people don't necessarily get everything I'm saying with that. But what I'm saying is that you can take a subset of the physics and solve that, and still get very good results.
All right, like maybe because I heard it was kind of like how Minecraft did it. They don't really. But they just lowered the entire field of the water to the previous level, the lowest level that was next to it, or something.
Oh yeah, Minecraft's physics blows, but that guy's doing all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it blows hard. It's not. There's no physics really in there at all. But that's what I'm saying. It's the chain's only as strong as its weakest link, and Minecraft completely captures the imagination of my daughter for one. And she's not going, oh, daddy, this is not obeying the Navier-Stokes equation. She's just building amazing worlds because it's got some other magic to it, the number of permutations and the creative freedom. So it's always about standing back and saying, does that matter?
Yeah, exactly.
So Anthony, who I think I may be talking to. No, I'm talking to Laserbreak. Okay.
It was Iceman.
Iceman. Yeah, sorry, but Anthony's asked the question. I've moved on. Sorry. So thank you for the question, Iceman. And I love your handle. It's cool. Somebody recently asked in GameDev.tv how to make video cutscenes. Yeah, Mikey did one of those the other day as a preview for the RPG. So just animate a camera through the scene. Depends how you're doing it. So if you want to make an in-game video cutscene, which is much more common these days, because then you know what it used to be like. Cast your mind back 10 years, right? You'd play a game, you'd be there, you'd fire up the game, and this pre-rendered CGI cutscene that took 15 years to render on a supercomputer, shows for 10 seconds, and then you're dumped into this crappy game engine. And it's really jarring. Now you get in-game cutscenes because you lose a little bit of visual fidelity. They could do better in something like, a Naughty Dog game or something. But it's good enough, and what you get is you get that smooth transition, especially in something like Uncharted or The Last of Us, where you can't even really, as an observer of somebody playing the game, you can hardly tell when the player retakes control because there's no change in the rendering at that time. So that seems to be the trend. So I presume you mean cutscenes as in cutscenes created like that, which is a question of animating. It's a question of thinking about the design of your world and making sure that, hey, if I put so in our RPG with a third-person isometric looking down at the ground, we can't just fly a camera anywhere in there because we haven't designed the distance to deal with that, the sky, the mountains in the distance. But so you've got to think about, what would show if you put the camera somewhere weird. And once you've done that, then you've got to think about putting an animator on the camera, moving the camera around, playing the right sounds at the right time. There's Matinee in Unreal to do that. There's the animators in Unity to do that. So certainly can be done. And it's not in any of our courses right now. It will be at some point. Shader programming. Hey, love the idea of shader programming. At some point, we will teach that black art. Yeah. And I would love to do it. It'll be a little bit down the road, but we'll get to it. It'll be cool. So I'm going to stop soon. So if anybody else has got any questions, please chuck them out into the chat. And it's been really good to talk to you guys. Thank you for diving on in voice, some of you. And if there's no other questions, then we shall wind it up, and it's available. It'll be available on YouTube to watch again. TYVM, hey, I got that one. Thank you very much.
Smooth.
Smooth. Cool, guys. All right, so I'll wrap it up. The questions have dried up. I really appreciate you being here. It was one of the quieter ones, but still, you've got a good handful of people. And yeah, that's it, I think. So I will stop streaming to YouTube and